Go ahead.
Are we to assume that somebody brought food for the court? Just a joke.
The people in the back of the room didn't hear your joke.
Having risked my life once on that joke, I think I'll let it go, if that's all right with the court.
All
right. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So before the break, just to pick up where we left off, you indicated you were appointed as an investigator on this case June the 13th of 2003, correct?
Yes.
And then Sergeant Robel, sometime after that, came in as co-lead investigator, correct?
Correct.
And you told us you did not call Terry Flaw to gain the benefit of what he had done on the case, is that correct?
I did say that before the break, but I thought about it, and I believe I may have spoken with him.
You may have. Do you know if Sergeant Robel spoke to him?
I don't know.
Okay. And Detective Flaw was still working for your department in June of 2003, correct?
I'm not sure.
And he had, and again, I don't mean any offense, but he had considerably more experience as a detective than you had at that point, is that correct?
Yes. He'd been in the division a lot longer than I had.
And he also had quite a bit of specialized training in sexual offense cases, is that correct?
That's what I believe, yes.
Okay. And he eventually, by the end of the year or so, he left the sheriff's department, correct?
Yes.
And then he went to work at the Santa Maria Police Department, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. During that year, or I'm sorry, half a year while he was still at the department, did you and Sergeant Robel consult with him on this case?
Together, do you mean?
Independently or together?
I can't speak for Sergeant Robel, but I believe I may have talked with him, yes.
You may have talked with him. Do you recall consulting with him on this case?
Not specifically, but I may have.
Okay. And he found that there was no criminal activity, right?
Correct.
And he was pretty much out of the picture after that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Detective Zelis, I actually have just one question. And I want to direct your attention back to Mr. Sanger's examination about Gavin's response to my question on the day that you were interviewing him. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you recall, that report in front of you, is that with the one you took a long time to find?
Yes.
All right. At the time, let me ask you a question. If you don't remember the answer, I'll allow you to look at it and you can refresh your recollection. Mr. Sanger didn't finish reading the rest of the questions and answers, but at the time that Gavin made that statement, was he talking about something that he believed at the time that the rebuttal was made or something that he was reflecting back on?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Based on Gavin's statement during that conversation, was he indicating that that was his current belief as to what happened or that was his state of mind at the time that the rebuttal film was made?
I still object. That calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Judge.
You can have him state what he said, not what his conclusion is.
All right. I was trying to do it, all right. I'll do that. Question by me. Did you think that at the time, or that that's what you think now that you see it? A. No. That's what I think now, when I see it, everything. Was that his statement to you at that time?
Yes.
In relationship to the question Mr. Sanger had brought to your attention that I asked him earlier.
Yes.
That was the question and answer that preceded the entire conversation.
Correct.
Nothing further.
All right. Just so we're clear, because we had the words, preceded, and so on there. What Mr. Sneddon just read to you, you were following in the transcript. Is that correct?
Not at the same time, no.
Oh. Okay. Then during the break he reviewed this with you, is that correct?
No.
Did you see this during the break?
You let me read it.
Pardon?
I believe you let me read it.
Okay. So maybe I didn't ask that question correctly. Mr. Sneddon, during the break, let you read that part of the transcript.
No.
What are you talking about? You said he let you read it.
No, I said, you let me read it.
Oh. Okay. I didn't let you read it during the break.
No.
But if you'd asked, I probably would have, but, alright. During the break, did you discuss that with Mr. Sneddon at all?
No.
Alright, so he got up there and he asked you about these comments preceding the comments that he made, is that right?
Yes.
These comments did not precede the comments that Mr. Sneddon made, did they? May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the transcript.
That's what I was trying to do.
What Mr. Sneddon just read to you came after the exchange between Mr. Sneddon and Gavin, is that correct?
May I?
You can look at whatever you want to look at in there.
It is after the question by Mr. Sneddon to Gavin.
And after Gavin gave his explanation about, yeah, that's what they were doing, and it was 99.9% of it was not true. Right.
Correct.
And then what Mr. Sneddon read followed that, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have no further questions. May I approach to retrieve my book?
No questions, Your Honor.
Yes. All right. You may step down. Call your next witness.
Detective Alvarez.
All right. When you get to the witness stand, please remain standing. Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
I do.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Victor M. Alvarez. Alvarez.
Thank you.
Detective Alvarez, you're a deputy sheriff.
That's correct.
How long have you been a deputy sheriff?
About 25.5 years.
And you're a detective now, correct?
That's correct.
How long have you been a detective?
5.5 years.
And some point in time, did you get assigned to work as one of the detectives on the investigation into the child molestation charges against the defendant in this case, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall when it was that you were assigned?
I think it was approximately 1 week before the initial search warrant.
And do you remember what month and year that would have been, then?
It would have been November of 2003.
During the course of your time as a detective on this particular case, were you asked to obtain some rolled fingerprint impressions from the Arvizo boys?
Yes.
Do you remember when you did that? Just generally the month and the year.
I would imagine it was 3 or 4 months ago.
Alright, let me show you an exhibit. It might help. Off-the-record discussion held at council table. I've handed you an exhibit marked 287 for identification purposes. Do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
When and where was the first time you saw that exhibit?
When I sealed it, and when I rolled these fingerprints.
And you were the one responsible for rolling those prints?
That's correct.
Where were you when you rolled them?
At the Arvizo home.
And the prints contained in that exhibit are the prints of both boys?
That's correct.
Alright, and then you sealed and booked it into evidence?
I did.
Your Honor, I move that be admitted into evidence. People's 287.
No objection.
All right. It's admitted.
Alright, let's go back a little bit in time to prior, at the time that you were assigned to the case. Were you involved in the execution of the search warrant on November 18, 2003 at Neverland Valley Ranch?
Not. I was assigned to do an interview prior to going to the ranch.
And did somebody go with you to that interview?
Yes.
Who was that?
Detective Bonner.
And where did the interview take place?
At the Santa Maria Sheriff's Department substation.
And who did you meet there?
Jesus Salas.
And did you videotape that conversation?
We did.
And do you speak Spanish?
I do.
Mr. Salas speaks Spanish.
He speaks English pretty good. But if there was a word that he didn't understand or was stuck on a word, I translated for him.
Now, after you completed your conversation with Mr. Salas on the 18th, by the way, we didn't establish everything, but what time was it when you made contact with Mr. Salas?
We called Mr. Salas, or we were to meet with Mr. Salas. It was a pre-arranged meeting, at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Did Mr. Salas know what the purpose of the meeting was?
No.
And did you meet him at 7 o'clock?
If it wasn't at 7 o'clock, it was very close to 7 o'clock, shortly thereafter.
After you finished your conversation with Mr. Salas, what did you do?
We left the Santa Maria substation and went to Neverland Ranch.
When you say, we, who was with you?
Detective Bonner.
And do you remember about what time it was when you got to the ranch?
Close to 10 o'clock.
And when you arrived at the ranch, were you assigned any particular responsibilities at that time?
Yes, I was.
What responsibilities were you assigned?
To help with the interview with the Neverland employees.
And after you completed that, were you given any other assignments?
Yes.
And what assignments were those?
To help continue the search of Mr. Jackson's master bedroom.
And do you recall approximately what time it was when you became involved in those activities?
I'd say about 11 o'clock or 11:30 in the morning.
During the course of the time that you were there, did you see some items that were eventually booked into evidence?
I did.
Do you remember the first thing that you found?
Yes.
And what was that?
They were some books containing adult material that were located near the bathtub in the master bedroom, or master bathroom.
All right. Anything else that you found that day that you eventually seized?
Yes.
What else?
A black computer bag that would be for a laptop. The name was Targus, Targus, that contained adult videos and adult magazines.
And where was that located?
That was located on the floor in the master bathroom next to the sink area, so it would be in between the sink and the round bathtub.
All right.
What's the number?
I'm putting that on there now. Your Honor, I have a large brown paper bag with the numbers 035670 at the top in black. I've shown the bag and its contents to Mr. Sanger for his examination. I'd like to show it to the witness.
All right.
I guess the question was, did it have an exhibit number?
I beg your pardon. 288. Would you take a look at the item contained in People's 288? Do you recognize that?
I do.
And when and where was the first time you saw that item?
I saw it in the master bedroom. In the master bathroom downstairs area on the floor next to the sink.
Now, when you obtained that item, what did you do with it after seizing it?
Prior to seizing it, I opened it up and saw the material that was inside.
All right. And then what did you do with? Did you take the materials out or did you leave them inside?
I left them in, and I sealed this bag and the big evidence bag.
All right. So it was then booked into evidence.
The whole thing was, yes.
Okay. Move that People's 288 be admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
No objection. Obviously, other than prior objections.
Right.
May that remain unstated.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's admitted.
I'm going to show you a photograph, and that photograph has been marked as People's 57 for identification purposes, and ask if you recognize that photograph.
I do.
And are the areas depicted in that photograph an accurate depiction as you saw it on the morning of November 18, 2003?
Yes.
Move that be admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
I have no objection.
All right. It's admitted.
Your Honor, would you hit the button?
Your Honor, we're going to need the Elmo.
Yes.
All right. People's 57 is up on the board. Do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
All right. Could you show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where the bag, People's 288, was the first time that you saw it on November 18, 2003?
It would be right here. Can you see? It would be right there.
All right. You're indicating at the base of the cabinet just below the big speaker.
Right. Here's the sink. There's the bag. And the tub is over here somewhere.
All right. Go ahead and sit down, if you want. Now, we can put the lights back on, Your Honor, for right now. All right. Are you okay? Your Honor, I'll describe for the record what we've just done with counsel. We've marked for identification 3 items. The first item is a small brown bag with some white paper on it, with the number 035670, and has on it the exhibit 565. Exhibit number 566 is a large plastic bag, which has a white binder, and it has the number, item 309B1, on the front of it. And the last item is item 3, item 567. That's another white, clear plastic bag, and containing a white binder with the number, item 309B2, on it. In addition to that, Your Honor, I've shown counsel 2 photographs. The first one I'm going to have marked as 289 for identification purposes, and the second one I'm going to have marked as 290 for identification purposes. Madam Clerk, is that okay?
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and take that bag, the black bag, Exhibit 288, and put it back in there, if you would. Alright, let's start with the smallest of the bags, the brown bag there, and the number on that is 289.
It says 565.
Oh, 565. I'm sorry. You're right. We already pre-numbered those. Different numbering system. Okay, 565.
Okay.
And with regard to that particular item, do you recognize it?
I do.
And when and where was it the first time you saw it?
Inside the black computer bag.
Okay.
Actually, the contents were inside the black computer bag.
The brown bag wasn't.
But the contents were, right. Correct.
Why don't you take the brown bag out, or take the contents out?
Yes.
Alright, now, do you recognize those items that you just pulled out?
I do.
And how do you recognize them?
Just from reading the contents, the outside package of them.
Do you recall those are the ones you found inside of the Exhibit 288?
Yes.
And were you the one responsible for placing them into that envelope and booking them into evidence?
Yes.
Alright, I move that the contents of 565, the bag and the contents, be admitted into evidence.
It's admitted.
Alright, let me have those for a second. Your Honor, we're going to need the lights down. With regard to 565, there are 2 videos inside and I'm going to show the first one. Just go ahead and show it. Now, is that one of the exhibits that you found inside that black briefcase?
Yes.
Alright, why don't you show the other one?
Can you see?
In unison, yes.
Probably don't want to. Is that the other one that you found?
Yes.
Alright, thank you. By the way, inside of that briefcase, do you recall whether you found any documents or indicia of belonging to Mr. Jackson?
I don't recall.
Okay, we'll get back to that. Now, let's take the clear plastic bags that are in front of you, okay? And let's talk, first of all, about the one that is marked as 565 for identification purposes. Do you see that?
No, I see 290 and 289.
No, not the.
I'm sorry.
565 is the one you just showed.
567.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I have 567 and 566.
Alright, my sheet's wrong. Alright, let's talk about 566 first. Now, with regard to, there's a photograph up there in front of you that goes with that binder, correct?
Yes.
You can flip it over on the other side to match up the number.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And the photograph is exhibit what?
289.
Alright, now, is 289 an accurate depiction of the front cover of the exhibit 566? Take it out and look at it, if you want to.
Yes, it is.
Move that 289 be admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
And with regard to the exhibit 566, that's the item that you found in the bag and that was also booked into evidence, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you were responsible for that?
Yes.
Alright, I move that 566 be admitted.
I'm going to object to 566. It's been placed in a binder, and there's not an adequate foundation for the exhibit as offered right now.
All right, sustained.
Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, why don't you put that back in the bag? Let's turn to 567.
Okay.
And there's a photograph that goes with 567. And what's the number on that? 290.
290.
Alright, now, with regard to the exhibit 567, where was that the first time you saw it?
Inside the black computer bag.
The one that's in evidence is 288.
Yes.
Alright, and were you responsible for booking that into evidence?
I was.
Now, at the time that that you booked that particular item into evidence, was it in a binder like that?
No, it wasn't.
It was still all together.
Like a normal paperback magazine.
Okay. Now, take a look at the Exhibit 290, the photograph.
Yes.
Is the Exhibit 290 an accurate depiction of the front cover of the Exhibit 567?
It is.
Move that 290 be admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
Ron, would you scoot that down so we can see? All right. Detective Alvarez, the exhibit marked as 289, is that the exhibit that you found inside of 288?
Yes.
Is that the condition of the magazine at the time that you seized it?
Yes.
All right, let's put up 290. And was this the other magazine you seized?
Yes, it was.
And was that the condition of the magazine at the time you seized it?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Off-the-record discussion held at counsel table. Okay.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Your Honor, I'll identify this in just a moment.
All right.
Or I can do it now, if it makes it easier. I have a brown paper bag with the number 304 in black letters in the upper right-hand corner. And that's been marked as People's 562, the brown and its contents. The brown. The bag. And then there is a clear plastic bag, Your Honor, that contains two exhibits. One is a white, another plastic bag with a white binder with the number 563 on it, and the number, item 304C, on the outside. And the next item has been marked as 564, and it's another white binder with, item 304D, on it, Your Honor. And then I have three exhibits that I'd like to have marked. The first one is a photograph marked as 291. The second one is another photograph that has the number 304C on it, and that is 292. And the last photograph is 304D, and that will be 293. Do you want to look at these?
I think I know what they are, but let me look at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe you could. I'll take these back, actually. How's that? Okay. Detective Alvarez, let's start with the brown bag, if we could. That, I believe, is Exhibit 563.
291. Brown bag is 291. Or, I'm sorry, 562.
562, all right. Do you recognize the bag?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
I booked this into evidence.
All right. Would you open the bag up and take out the contents? All right. Do you recognize the contents?
I do.
And when and where was that? Where did you see that for the first time?
In the master bedroom bathroom in between the sink and the tub, on the floor area.
And is that one of the items you collected?
I did.
Now, there is a photograph.
Yes.
291. Do you see that?
I do.
And is that photograph an accurate depiction, or does it accurately depict the cover of the exhibit?
Yes.
562.
Yes.
And is the exhibit, 562, the magazine you've taken out of the brown bag, in the same condition that it was at the time that you seized it on November 18, 2003?
Yes.
All right. I move it be admitted, Your Honor.
It's admitted.
All right. Let's move. If I didn't, Your Honor, I'd like to move that 291 be admitted, the photograph.
It's admitted. Okay.
Now, if we can move to the next exhibit, either one of the binders is fine. Take whatever one you have. Tell us an exhibit number on that one.
564.
And does that have an item number on it, on the front of the binder?
Item number is 304D.
304.
D, as in, David.
Okay. Now, you have a photograph up there.
Yes.
That's 293, I believe.
293.
Okay. Would you compare 293 with the front cover of the exhibit 564?
It's the same.
And that's 293, correct?
Yes.
The photo. And is that
293.
Is that an accurate depiction of the cover of the exhibit 564?
Yes.
Now, with regard to the exhibit 564, at the time that you first saw it and the time that you seized it, was it in the condition that it is in now?
No.
And when you seized it and placed it into evidence, what was the condition of that particular item that we've had identified as Exhibit 564?
It was in a regular paperback magazine condition.
Okay. Alright. You can put that one back in the bag, if you'd like. And if you'd keep the photograph, 293, with it, that would be great. Now, let's direct your attention to the last exhibit that you have up there.
Okay.
And the number on that is what? On the plastic bag with the...
Okay. The item number is 304C.
Okay.
As in, Charles.
And what's the exhibit number?
563.
Okay. Now, with regard to that particular exhibit, there is a photograph up there, correct?
Yes.
292.
292.
Would you co-mapper the photograph, 292, with the front cover of Exhibit 563?
Okay.
And is it an accurate depiction of what that cover looks like?
Yes, it is.
And with regard to that particular exhibit, 563, was that exhibit in a binder when you first found it?
No, it wasn't.
What was its condition at the time that you seized it and booked it into evidence?
It was a regular paperback magazine condition.
Hand me the photographs, the 3 photographs, if you would. And go ahead and put that back in the bag. Alright, we're going to display the exhibits on the board. We're going to start with 291. It's in evidence. Is that an accurate depiction of the book at the time you first saw it and seized it?
Yes.
At least the cover.
Yes.
Alright, go ahead, you can. That's 293, correct?
Yes.
And is that an accurate depiction of the book when you first saw it and seized it?
Yes.
292 and 293 haven't gone into evidence yet. You didn't ask for them.
I do, then, Your Honor. I apologize. I get so routine about them.
Alright, 292 and 293 are admitted.
Alright, so did we.
Go ahead.
Was 292 already up? Yes. Alright, let's do the last one, 293, then. 293 was the last one. 292 is the one before it. We're going to do 292 now. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that the condition of the magazine at the time that you seized it?
Yes.
And I say, by that, I mean the exhibit 292.
Yes.
That's depicted in that.
Yes.
Alright, thank you. When you seized the bag, 309.
Yes.
Okay. Did you go through the contents of the bag or did you just?
Yes, I did. I opened it up, and I saw what was inside.
Did you go through the paperwork in the bag?
I went through everything that was in that bag.
Okay. I guess I have to ask you to take that bag out again. Your Honor, for purposes of the record, I want to indicate that I've withdrawn a document from Exhibit 309. I want to show it to counsel before we move to the next step, but it did come out of the exhibit. It's 288, I'm sorry.
288.
Yes, sir. So if you just hang on to that. Your Honor, I'd like to have the document marked as 294 for identification purposes.
Alright, I'll need you to bring that over to the clerk here.
May I go this way, Your Honor?
He has a tag, Judge.
Oh, he has a tag.
Yes, she gave me some ahead of time, Your Honor.
I didn't know that. Go ahead.
And I've shown this document to counsel. Detective Alvarez, with regard to the document I just handed you, Exhibit 294, was that document inside the bag, 309, at the time that you seized it on November 18, 2003?
Yes.
And is it in the same condition now as it was when you saw it for the first time inside that bag?
It sure looks like it, yes.
Alright. Move that be admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
I'm going to object on the grounds that it violates a current order on a pending matter, if that makes sense.
I don't have the document, so.
You don't have it.
Should I approach, Your Honor?
Just hand it to me. You don't need to approach.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection pending further ruling on that issue.
May I have the officer testify at least showing indicia of the ownership of the bag?
Oh, for that purpose.
That's why I was offering it.
That's the only purpose you're offering it.
At this point in time, pending the court's ruling, that's why I'm offering it.
All right, just limit his testimony to that part of the document that would do that.
Yes, sir. Now, the document that's in front of you, that's 294.
Yes.
Is it addressed to Mr. Jackson?
It is.
And it's a multi-page document, correct?
Yes.
Does each page bear the initials, MJ, on it?
On all 12 pages.
No further questions, Your Honor.
May I approach to retrieve the exhibits?
Yes.
Thank you.
Here's some of them.
All right, let's start with your background, if I may, Detective Alvarez. You were a deputy marshal.
Right.
How many years?
Well, it was from 83 to 97.
Okay, and your duties as a deputy marshal were to be a bailiff in the municipal court in the South County, in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that, and serve warrants, evictions, civil process.
Okay.
Criminal warrants.
And then after the courts consolidated, the municipal court consolidated with the superior court, you opted to become a deputy sheriff. Is that correct?
We were absorbed as one department.
Okay, so when the courts consolidated, the marshal's office consolidated.
Correct.
And the deputy marshals then became deputy sheriffs, is that right?
Yes.
All right, and at that point you began working as a detective immediately.
No.
You were on patrol for a while.
Well, I became a background investigator. I actually had a knee injury that put me out on light duty for about 6 months. And I continued to work, and I worked in personnel as a background investigator. Once I was cleared by my doctor, I went back to work in the courts for
a while, okay. And when you say, personnel investigator, you were doing background checks for people who were applying to work at the sheriff's department.
That's correct. New hires.
All right.
And also, I was helping in the detective bureau doing interviews and just helping out.
All right, there you go. In any event, I guess my question is, when did you become a detective?
November of 99.
Okay, so as of the time of the case that we're talking about here, let me withdraw that. When did you become involved in this case?
Approximately a week before the initial search, which was November 18th of 2002.
How about November 18th of 2003?
2003.
Okay.
Correct.
I don't want to talk you into anything, but...
A year and a half ago.
Okay, so, and you started as a detective in November of 99, right? So you had 4 years as a detective at the time you were assigned to this case.
Approximately.
All right.
I've got over 5 years as a detective now, and I've been on this case for about a year and a half.
Okay, so that would be about 4 years, right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and you remained. After you were brought into the case, you remained as one of the main detectives on this case, is that correct?
That's correct. One of the lead investigators.
So you're a co-lead investigator with Detective Zelis and with Sergeant Robel.
And Detective Bonner, yes.
And Detective Bonner. All right, okay. Now, let me ask you. Let's just start again somewhat at the end of things. You were aware, were you not, sir, that the events in this case were alleged to have occurred in February and March of 2003, is that right?
Yes.
And so in November of 2003, you get assigned to the case and eventually you end up out at Neverland Valley Ranch during the search, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you. In fact, what I might do is just approach, well, let's do it this way. Let me put it up, if the court doesn't mind. Are we hooked up to this?
Go ahead.
These were 293 and 292. 292 is a penthouse magazine of some sort, right?
Yes.
And that's commercially available, correct?
Yes.
It's also not unlawful to possess it, in and of itself, correct?
No.
I said, correct. I'm sorry. Is it lawful to possess it, for an adult to possess this magazine?
For an adult, yes.
Okay, there you go. Alright, and you're aware that the alleged incidents, were alleged to have occurred in February and March of 2003, right?
Correct.
What's the date on this magazine?
I can't read it from here. It's...
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I can bring you the magazine, but I think you can see it on the exhibit here.
I still can't read that.
Alright, let me bring you the book that goes along with that. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to bring you the books here, and we'll talk about these a little more in a minute. I'll ask you, if you look at that. Let me stand here for 1 second, Your Honor, and make sure.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's the actual magazine. What's the date of the magazine?
I don't see a date on it.
You don't see a date on it.
I don't.
You can go up and show where it is.
Look right under the SE in Penthouse.
Okay.
Does it say July-August of 2003?
It does.
So is it safe to say, to your knowledge, as one of the co-lead investigators, no individual associated with this case, none of the Arvizos claimed that they saw this particular magazine in February or March of 2003?
Your Honor, can I object to that question as being compound? Because, I won't say anything else, but I object as compound.
Sustained.
Alright. To your knowledge, this may be compound. I'm going to ask about them as a group. You can say, yes, or, no, and we can take it one by one. To your knowledge, did any of the Arvizos claim that they saw this magazine in February or March of 2003?
This particular one.
Yes, that particular one.
I don't know.
As a detective, an investigator, you would suspect that they would not have seen it, correct, since it was published after the events.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that. It calls for a conclusion as to when it was published. No more. I object. Lack of foundation as to when the magazine actually hit the stands.
Sustained.
Alright. Based on your experience, do magazines hit the stands, 3 or 4 months before their publication date?
No.
Sometimes it's a month before a publication date.
I'd say a month. If you're a subscriber, you usually get them a month early.
Alright, and I brought you the other book, just in case you can't read this. But I'm going to put up 293, if I may, Your Honor.
Yes.
And again, this is a commercially available magazine, is that correct?
Yes.
And you can buy it in a store, in other words.
Some stores.
Yes. Well, not every store, I would agree. What's the date on this magazine?
July 2003.
While you have those books up there, you notice that the books, I'm going to take another one out of the bag here, just as an example, just to follow on, but you notice that the books are encased in a 3-ring binder, and then each page appears to be in some kind of plastic sleeve. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you do that?
I did not.
Let me ask you about the magazine. I think you may still have the actual magazine up there, but I have 291, which is 562. Put it this way, 562 is the actual magazine. 291 is the copy of the cover. Oh, here it is.
I have 564 and 563, Mr. Sanger.
You're right, it's over here. In any event, I'm going to put this up, if I may, 291, Your Honor. 291 is a book, correct?
Yes.
That's a cover of the book that you seized, is that right?
That's correct. Soft cover book.
And the actual book is a book of illustrations done by an artist, is that correct, or by artists?
Yes.
Alright, and that is also a commercially available publication. Is that a commercially available publication?
It appears to be.
Alright, and it's not illegal to possess that per se?
No.
Now, excuse me 1 second. Off-the-record discussion held at council table. You did the prints that were marked as Exhibit 287, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you? To take those fingerprints, you simply rolled the fingerprints.
They weren't done with a machine, but the palm prints were done with a roller.
Okay, say that again, because I couldn't hear what you said.
You're looking at the fingerprints themselves.
Fingerprint cards.
Those were done by hand.
So you actually rolled the prints?
Yes.
You had.
There's a technique, but, yes.
Okay, and you are not a certified fingerprint examiner, is that correct?
Not examiner, no.
Alright, you, however, have experience in booking people and rolling their prints, right?
Booking a lot of people and booking a lot of prints.
Alright, but you know the difference between that and being a certified fingerprint examiner, of course.
Yes.
Okay, now, going back to your testimony about going through the house, you got there and started your assignment of searching through the house at some time late morning. I think you said it was around 11 o'clock.
I think we interviewed Mr. Zelis for about 2 hours. And driving time from Santa Maria to Los Olivos, another, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes. So it was close to 10 o'clock when we got there.
Alright, and then?
Or a little after 10 o'clock.
Okay, and your first assignment was to do something else other than search.
Yes.
So what I'm getting at, is when you started to assist in the search, that was around 11 o'clock.
Could be.
Alright, and by the time you got there to search, quite a number of officers had already been through the house, is that correct?
There were a lot of officers in the house, but not in Mr. Jackson's master bedroom area.
How many officers were in Mr. Jackson's master bedroom area when you first arrived there?
Could have been 2 or 3 maybe. To start.
When you say, master bedroom area, you're talking about the whole suite, the first floor, second floor, the bathrooms, all that.
Yes, I'm talking about down the corridor area where the secure door is.
Alright, and you believe there are 2 or 3 officers there when you arrive?
No, when I started assisting.
Well, that's what I meant. When you arrived to assist. When you started assisting on the search.
Yes, there wasn't a whole lot of detectives in that area.
Alright, were you joined by other officers or other law enforcement people in that room as the time went on?
Yes.
How many people were in there? How many different people were in there while you were there?
Throughout the day.
Yes.
There was quite a few detectives in there, and forensic people, yes.
And Mr. Sneddon came through at one point, did he not?
He did.
Alright, did Mr. Franklin go through that area of the house?
He did.
Before you got there, you started your search detail. Do you know how many officers had gone through that area?
I can't tell you an exact number, but I know it was very limited, because that was the instructions.
Okay, so if people followed the instructions, it would have been limited, is that correct?
If people followed the instructions, I didn't hear your second half.
It would have been limited, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're aware there was a cameraman and a number of detectives who went through the area before the search started itself, is that correct? Well, let me put it this way. I guess that's part of the search. Before the actual seizures of items commenced, a cameraman and detectives walked through the area, is that right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as lack of foundation.
Sustained. Just a minute. My feed's not working.
I know, Judge. We're working on bringing it back up.
All right, go ahead.
When you located this black bag that you referred to, and you've got it up there. I believe it's exhibit number 288. It was in the position that you indicated to the jury on the photograph, correct?
Yes.
And about what time of day did you locate that black bag there?
I can't recall the exact time.
Did you note it in a report?
It might be on the bag when it was booked in.
Do you have the bag there, or, if it helps refresh your recollection?
That looks right.
Now, having looked at that, do you have a recollection of when you located that bag?
It says 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, but the question is, did that refresh your recollection as to approximately when you located it? About 2 o'clock.
It's hard to say. Probably. I was there from 11 o'clock, starting the search, to 11:30 that night, so somewhere between 11 o'clock, I would say, and early afternoon.
Alright, do you have exhibit 294 up there? No, you don't. It's here. Do you remember exhibit 294? May I approach to show him?
Yes. The paperwork.
The paperwork. Alright. The paperwork is. Without going into the contents of it, it's addressed to Michael. It's a letter addressed to Michael Jackson, care of a company in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then it's also addressed to two other entities of some sort, two other entities.
Right.
So it appears to you, from the letter, that it's the kind of letter that went out. Or is a letter that went out to 3 different recipients. Is that right?
Yes. It's addressed to 3 different people, it looks like, on the front page.
Okay. And there's no indication by way of a checkmark, or a circle, or anything else, as to which copy this was. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe so.
Alright. In the exhibit that's marked Exhibit 565, there's 2 videos. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or there are 2 video cases. Is that correct?
Right.
And one of the video cases does not have a video. I mean, it doesn't have a CD in it, or whatever, DVD. Is that correct?
That's correct.
There's no contents is what I'm trying to say.
It's an empty case.
And you didn't find that video anywhere in your search, did you?
I personally did not.
That appears to be a commercially prepared, prepared video of some sort. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And nothing unlawful about owning that video.
If you're over 18.
If you're over 18. The other one, entitled, Believe It or Not, appears to be a Leisure Time Europe video. Is that correct?
I remember the front of it. I don't know anything about Leisure Time Europe.
Okay. And this particular video. Okay. Mr. Zonin is trying to bring me up to date here.
Okay.
He's reminding me it's a DVD, not a video. But alright. I suppose it's a video captured on a DVD, but we could both be right. But I accept that assistance. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you about this. And put on your glasses, if necessary, reading the fine print down there.
I don't have my glasses.
These won't help you. Can you see it?
No.
Can't see it. Do we, by any chance, have a magnifying glass, or does somebody have reading glasses? I have bifocals, and I don't want to. Are these reading glasses? We've got some. We'll find out how well they work. I should get a waiver on practicing optometry.
I can read it now. It's still really small, but I can read it.
Okay. Didn't get any bigger, but you can read it. Alright. On that disc, does it say when the disc was released?
Well, it says July 3rd of 1995.
No, that's not when it was released. That's something to do with it's not in front of me, but it has something to do with the law.
I'm still reading.
Right down at the very end.
Which was produced on January 22, 03 and released on 3/27 of 03. Printed in the USA.
Alright. To your knowledge, as a co-lead investigator in this case, to your knowledge, no witness has identified either one of those videos or video boxes. Is that correct?
Per name, no.
Hang on 1 second. Alright. I have no further questions. Oh, wait 1 second. One of my colleagues pointed out something. Let me ask you about this. And I may have to approach for this purpose. May I do that, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 294, which again has not been received into evidence. There's been limited testimony about it. I'll take these back.
Okay.
What is the date of that letter?
May 1st, 2003.
Okay, thank you. Alright, I have no further questions.
No questions.
All right. Thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
I think I'll let the jury step out early. I have a couple of things to take up with the attorneys before we take our break, so you get a longer break right now.
In unison, thank you.
But no pizza.
In unison, ah.
All right. The jury is out of the room. The first thing I wanted to take up with you is the prosecution has asked for a little more time to respond to the motion, points and authorities on George Lopez evidence, which I had asked them to have in by today, I think. So I'm not quite sure how much more time did you want?
Your Honor, is it the case that the court requests of Mr. Blancart, who's the attorney?
No, no, I'm not addressing that. They can't hear you in the back here. I just want to know how much time you need to respond. I know what you said.
This is on the issue of Lopez.
Get to the microphone.
I'm sorry. The answer is a couple days after we received.
I don't know about receiving it. It's not conditional on that. I'd like you to respond to the points and authorities.
Then we can have it within 2 days.
All right, Friday.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll extend that time.
Is there going to be a date for a hearing on that, Your Honor?
We're just going to fit it in. It wasn't a formal motion. I asked you, or you volunteered a little more points and authorities, and I'm not treating it as some date. I want to read what you say, and if I want to hear any more from you, I'll let you know.
All right.
The second thing is the issue of the request by the people to respond, to have their 1108 hearing. And did you just get that today?
Just got it. Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to treat this the same way. It's not a motion, you know. It's something in abeyance. When are we going to have it? And they're asking, can we have it sooner than later? And I want to give you a couple of days to respond. How much time do you need?
Let's see. Today's Wednesday. We would certainly need through the end of the week.
Through Friday.
Could we file it Monday, Your Honor?
They're asking to do it next week, so I don't think that's right. We could handle it orally. I mean, it's not a thing that even needs written points and authorities. The question is, when is the right time to hear it? I want to give you a chance to file something.
I appreciate it. I guess we could file something Friday, Your Honor.
Okay. Bring it in with you.
Okay.
When you come in.
As far as the hearing goes, is the court contemplating a hearing where they simply call witnesses, or do we get a chance, if we choose, to put on our own witnesses to attack their credibility?
Well, I said that they definitely have to call witnesses. Then, and I'm really going to be judging their evidence. But I would consider an offer by you.
Okay. For example, Your Honor, there's some witnesses.
You don't need to. I can imagine the example already. You don't need to go into it.
Okay.
I guess the answer is maybe, depending on what I hear and what your offer of proof is then. And let me look at, in the meantime, I'll look at the law, if you want to give me anything on that. It is unusual to have opposing evidence at a hearing like that, but I'm not sure that means that that's not what we should do.
You could at a hearing, for example, put on witnesses that say, they told me the opposite, or, they have a reputation for lying, that type of thing.
I see. I expected you to be talking about credibility issues.
We have one judge's order certified from another trial that.
This is not the time to argue. But I will take under consideration what you're suggesting. All right.
There was one other matter that is still floating, if I could just click my computer once. Thank you. And that was the issue you were going to take up on Thursday, which?
That's the George Lopez.
No, there was the motions to quash and the remedy, the financial.
Oh, yes, yeah. They can't hear you in the back. I need the break. I've promised the court reporters not to do this.
Just wanted to remind you, that's all.